Good evening and thank you for joining us for Wednesday night's edition of Primetime News. I'm Salima Shimwe-Feleni. Our lead story tonight: Southern Africa Development Community SADC Executive Secretary Lawrence Tax has urged member states to speed up the inclusion of Southern African liberation history in school curriculums for the benefit of current and future generations. Tax said this in a statement on the commemoration of Southern Africa Liberation Day, which is observed on 23 March to pay homage to those who sacrificed their lives for the liberation of the region, as well as to celebrate the solidarity that exists among SADC member states. The Southern African Development Community SADC Protocol on Industry is a well-researched document that is producing volumes of hot air which leads to nothing, Popular Democratic Movement parliamentarian Nico Smith said on Tuesday. He said this while criticizing the SADC Industry Protocol tabled for ratification by Industrialization Minister Lucia Ipumbu.
This protocol is the first step in the comprehensive overhaul of the development framework that guides industrialization in all member states of the Southern African Development Community. As such, it is a noble undertaking, but its scope is vast and the implementation horizon will easily reach 50 years, if not longer. I suspect the first phase, including legal convergence, will take up to 20 years, and that actual implementation will only start after that. When I first started working through the protocol, I realized that this is a draft document, intended only to give the very first baby steps for moving on to the SADC Industrial Development Policy Framework, formulated and released in 2012 already, and the subsequent SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap, approved by the SADC Summit in April 2015. Honourable Speaker, these two documents immediately place the current protocol in context, to the extent that I wonder why we need a protocol at this stage, when there are already two substantive documents that address all the matters covered by the protocol. Honourable Speaker, as you all know, at this point there is no SADC industrial strategy that has been adopted by all member states, or even by a required two-thirds majority for ratification. But to be fair to the process, let me categorize them and leave it to you to decide if this is yet another exercise in producing volumes of hot air which leads to nothing. The list of objectives can be summarized as: there is not a single government in SADC, South Africa included, with the capacity or the financial wherewithal to drive the protocol through all its intentions and undertakings. When the private sector is excluded, sidelined and ignored, the protocol will at most turn into a relic and be ignored by the broader community, economy, both at national and regional level. This is also a doomed model because before we reach 2063, deadline of the strategy and roadmap, the overarching importance of finance will have to come to the fore, and the lack of it will make any industrialization come into a grinding halt. If that industrialization is state-driven, it will not succeed.
Heads of entities responsible for ensuring the availability of water for the Namibian nation have urged the nation to value water and take note of its importance and scarcity in the country. Speaking during a panel discussion at the Government Information Centre in the capital on Tuesday, Namibia Water Corporation NamWater Chief Executive Officer Abraham Nehemiah said it is the responsibility of all Namibians to protect and preserve the country's water resources.
We have really insufficient water. If you look at where we have much water, it's mostly in the rivers at the borders with the neighboring countries, which are classified as shared water courses that we share with the neighboring countries. And as such, there are protocols, including the SADC protocol, that determines how we utilize those resources. Inland, we have more about groundwater resources because the rivers inside the country is ephemeral. They dry up after rain. The water just runs off. And what we have remaining is the groundwater and the water that we keep in the storage facilities when we build dams. Now, those little water that we have has to be protected, because if we pollute such resources, it will look like as if we don't have water at all. So therefore, it's very important that all the Namibians understand the importance of the little water that we have, that we do not pollute our water resources by any way. Pollution can happen either by dumping. For instance, the local authorities, if they dump waste without really properly planned dumping sites, the possibility of polluting the groundwater is quite high. Even the surface water, if you look at the Korekap Dam in Windhoek, it's a dam full of water, but you cannot use it because of pollution. So either pollution that comes from industries or from household waste. So therefore, it's really important that when you commemorate days like this one, that we really understand the importance of keeping our water clean, because number one, it is costly. If we have to treat it to bring it to a potable level to supply to the community, it's quite costly if it is already polluted in natural state. So therefore, a country like Namibia, dry and arid, water quality plays a major role, and that is a responsibility of every Namibian.
A 34-year-old man who on Monday fled the scene at Okatana near Oshakati after his station wagon allegedly collided head-on with an oncoming Toyota sedan was arrested on Tuesday. Inspector Thomas Ayambo of the Namibian Police Force's Community Affairs Office in the Oshana region today told Namibia Press Agency the man was arrested while seeking medical treatment at the Oshakati Intermediate Hospital. His name is being withheld as he will only appear in court at Oshakati on Thursday. He faces charges of reckless and/or negligent driving, fleeing an accident scene, and failure to ascertain the nature of injuries and damage at the accident scene. It's time for your news roundup. African finance ministers have expressed their joint concern over the slowness in assessing COVID-19 vaccines as they appealed funding for vaccine equity. In their joint communique issued late Tuesday concerning special drawing rights for low-income and middle-income countries, the ministers noted with deep concern the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the health of Africa's populations, the continent's economies, as well as on the prospects of achieving the global agenda for sustainable development goals and Africa's 50-year Continental Development Agenda 2063. With that, we've come to the end of our top section of the news. Kindly stand by for your sports news with Shalva Wells.
A good evening to you all and welcome to Sport Planet with me, Shalva Wells. We start with local football news. Namibian football will be dealt another blow if the Sam Nujoma Stadium is not brought up to the standards of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, and International Federation of Association Football, FIFA. If Namibia fails to upgrade the stadium to CAF standard, it will join the likes of Burkina Faso, Swaziland and Sierra Leone, whose stadiums have been declared unfit for international matches, forcing them to play all their home African Nations Cup qualifiers matches in other countries. CAF issued a circular to the Namibia Football Association last month which said the Sam Nujoma Stadium does not meet requirements for a CAF-approved Category 3 stadium. The report pointed out a number of problems at the stadium, which was completed in 2005 and is used by the Namibia Football Association for its international matches. It said the pitch and surrounding areas need to be fixed, the dressing rooms are in poor condition and outdated, and there must be individual seats in the stadium, which also needs to be modernized. It also said the stadium requires sufficient sanitary facilities for spectators. Still on football. Ghana's football team left Accra for Johannesburg late Tuesday to play Bafana Bafana of South Africa in a crucial Africa Cup of Nations qualifier on Thursday. Ghana's Minister for Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, who visited the Black Stars at their last training session in Accra before their departure, urged the team to beat the Bafana Bafana to qualify for the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations with a game to spare. In all, 26 players made the trip to the Southern African country. Ghanaian captain Andre Ayew, forward Jordan Ayew and midfielder Thomas Partey will not be part of the contingent to South Africa but will join the squad later for the final game against Sao Tome and Principe in Accra. And lastly, on to rugby news. South Africa declared its intention Tuesday to host the British and Irish Lions tour as scheduled this year. Contingency plans have been drawn up, which included bringing the matches to Britain and Ireland or postponing the tour until 2022 or 2025 because of the coronavirus pandemic. But the two teams said they were aligned on delivering the tour in the scheduled playing window. Kindly stand by for the Sports Roundup. That's all the time we had for you this evening. Thank you for tuning in. Please give us a thumbs up and share the news. If you are new to this channel, kindly smash the subscribe button and click on the notifications bell to stay up to date with the latest happenings locally and globally. From me, Shalva Wells, and the entire Nampa team, good night.